the military-industrial complex supports a lot of these institutions, these so-called think tanks, which aren't thinking very hard. My work for the last 40 years is working in places we call the emerging and developing economies. So I go to China several times a year. I've watched it for 43 years now with my own eyes. It was poor in 1981 when I first got to Beijing. There were no personal cars at all. People were wearing Mao suits. There were a lot of bicycles on the street, but there were no personal vehicles at all. It was impoverished. This was just after the end of the Cultural Revolution. Deng Xiaoping had just come to power. Now you go and you see there are more than 100 cities in China of more than 1 million people. Sometimes you go to gleaming metropolises in China, gleaming fancy stores, and you realize, gee, I never even heard of this city before I arrived here earlier today. I mean, that's literally happened to me on a number of occasions because there are more than 100. I don't know many of them, but I go there for visits or to give a lecture, and you see the wealth. And when you travel around the world, you see how much change. And by the way, I take heart from it because I want people to live well. I don't want people to live in misery so the United States can say we're number one. I want people to live well. And I don't think they get this in Washington. They are trash talking China until today. Why? China's not a threat to us. It is not an enemy to us. It's just catching up for lost time. And by the way, a lot of the lost time came from the horrible misdeeds by the United States, by Britain, by other Western powers, and by Japan on China in what they call the century of humiliation from 1839 to 1949. What happened? China was repeatedly invaded by, quote, our side. You know, Britain went to war in China in 1839 for what? Well, it's called the First Opium War because Britain told the Chinese leaders, you must open your markets to our opium because we want to get rich addicting the Chinese people. And when the Chinese leaders said no, the British invaded. They did that twice, again in the 1850s. We're nasty. This is what real imperialism is about. Of course, Japan invaded in the 1890s. It invaded in the 1930s. China's making up for lost time. Are they an enemy? No. The problem for the United States is there are a lot of Chinese people, 1.4 billion. We're 335 million. We're a fourth of the Chinese population. So now that China is about 30% or 1/3 of our living standards, but 4 times the population, if you do the arithmetic, they're a larger economy than we are. How dare they be a larger economy, say our policymakers. We need to contain them. We need to stop them. This is the mindset in Washington that's so dangerous right now. And they don't understand that what's happening is good. Actually, the United States wanted to spread the benefits of modern technology. It helps all of us that we don't have a world of impoverishment elsewhere and instability. And a bigger market means more innovations, and it means better living standards if we use it right, rather than for all these horrible and useless wars. But when you ask, do they understand this? No, because the Council on Foreign Relations, which I'm a member, publishes a journal called Foreign Affairs, and it's frankly like a neurotic journal because every issue is, oh yes, the United States can stay number one. Not can the United States be safe, healthy, prosperous, but can it be number one? That's what counts to them, not to me. What counts for me is our security, our safety, our well-being.